Want to say that when I was doing my MA at York St John's, we were encouraged to read Toni Morrison's Beloved. I had read some novels by her before at the University of York when I was studying literature there. And I read some more still when I was doing my MA at St John's of Toni Morrison's stories. Yes, certainly. She is a very passionate writer, and interested, obviously, in standing up for black people, as well as women. It's difficult to know which of those she feels she might need to stand up for more. I'm glad that as a woman writer, she has made and had such an impact. But I also read, partly because I was studying cultural hegemony, about Antonio Gramsci talked about cultural hegemonies, and it was at the time we were studying Beloved, customary to sweep under the carpet the slavery problem that had been apparent to Du Bois when most of the South of America, the black people were slaves, he claimed. But thinking about it, I don't wish to be controversial, but it would have partly been only surely at harvest time that there would have been needed a large amount of slaves on a plantation. The rest of the year, in order maybe to keep these slaves sort of waged and from wandering off, there might have been tasks made up, to be quite honest, to try and keep them occupied. Or them, I don't know what the situation was. I'm trying to imagine. That's it. I'm trying to imagine. Because surely it would have been at harvest time, only probably that they would have essentially needed a large bunch of people. I once worked as a stacker and stooper in fields and in a barn when I was about 14 for a farmer who was kind to me and who had rented me and then later went on to sell to me a horse. He was a kind farmer. I'm sure he wasn't exploiting us. He was partly sort of demonstrating to us and partly needed us as well to some extent. It was probably slightly illegal, but even at the time, but we did enjoy the summers. It was over a few summers working in the fields. All our hands and arms got really scratched by the straw. We wore sort of pads in the end, bits of foam to try and stop us getting so scratched. And we only earned £1 an hour. But yes, farmers would obviously, even in the UK, when they were operational in the UK, they would have had the same problem, surely, that they would need people mostly at harvest time. A great many people at harvest time. I believe that lately Polish people have been hired somewhat in the UK to sort of harvest when some of the places that still may be growing vegetation need people to help gather the produce. So surely, I don't wish to be nasty about it, and there may have been all sorts of nasty things about black slavery, I admit. But some of it surely must have been to do with the need for people at harvest time, mostly. And also, what happened, maybe it was sour grapes with some of them that they weren't kept on. Right, that's a terrible thing in this cultural milieu. Now it's sort of a woke culture to say, maybe, but I'm just trying to talk and think about it common sense wise. I think the crime may be the takeover of the land from people native to that land. I'm told that there are private beaches now in some of the places where there was slavery ages ago. And that even like a black person living in his own country can't necessarily freely visit a beach 10 miles away. So that is problematic, isn't it? That's the problem, maybe, rather than how it's been presented. And if that's the problem, then that's still a problem.